We begin with news that a judge has ruled that Paula Llewelyn remains as Jamaica's Director of Public Prosecution. The ruling was made a short while ago in the Court of Appeal. Our legal correspondent, Dion Jackson Miller, has the details. Dion?
Thanks so much, Shemala. The ruling was made by a three-member panel of the Court of Appeal, and I just want to remind your listeners a little bit, because to understand where we are, we have to remember what it was at stake. The DPP, Ms. Llewelyn, was supposed to retire in 2020 when she reached the age of 60. That's what the Constitution had said at the time. She asked for, and she got a 3-year extension. Before she came to the age of 63, she asked for another extension. She was told, no, the Constitution didn't allow it. So the government, I should say, at that point or a little later, had passed an amendment to the Constitution to raise the age of retirement for the DPP as well as the Auditor General from 60 to 65, which is the age that's now generally used in the public sector. But what that act also did was make provision for Ms. Llewelyn to elect to retire at any point after the age of 60. Now, the opposition objected to that because they said, hold on, the DPP has already got an extension. She should now be demitting office. And the Supreme Court ruled that the part of the act that raised the retirement age from 60 to 65 was fine. But they said Ms. Llewelyn, that's the Supreme Court, couldn't benefit from that because what the new legislation was doing was to essentially allow her to choose when to retire, when what the Constitution says is that that decision should be made by the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister, and a recommendation from the Prime Minister to the Governor General. The Court of Appeal has now disagreed with the Supreme Court. They said yes, they agreed with the Supreme Court that the part of the act raising the retirement age is fine, but they disagreed with the Supreme Court that it doesn't apply to Ms. Llewelyn. They have said that the extension, the raised retirement age, automatically applies to Ms. Llewelyn.
A court ruling on Friday has left Director of Prosecutions Paula Llewelyn's tenure in doubt. The Constitutional Court says last year's amendment to the Constitution allowing the DPP to choose to remain in office after an extension was expired was unconstitutional. In an oral decision on behalf of the court, Justice Sonia Wint-Blair said raising the retirement age for the DPP from 60 to 65 was valid, but allowing Ms. Llewelyn to elect to stay on was wrong.
The incumbent DPP has already reached the extended retirement age. This means that the application of Section 2(2) cannot lead to another extension in office by way of an election on the part of the incumbent DPP, as this is unlawful. Section 2(1) of the Act, as currently formulated, has raised the retirement age without addressing the extension of tenure in office. Consequently, any extension of the DPP's tenure under this section must adhere to the same process outlined in the previous Section 96(1) of the Constitution, which remains unchanged by the Act. The only lawful method to extend the DPP's tenure remains by way of an agreement between the Prime Minister and the opposition leader. Judgment is entered for the claimants. This court declares as follows. 1. Section 2(1) of the Act is a valid constitutional amendment. 2. Section 2(2) of the Act is an invalid constitutional amendment. 3. Section 2(2) is severed from the Act and is struck down and declared as unconstitutional, null, void, and of no legal effect.
The case was brought by opposition PNP lawmakers Philip Paulwell and Peter Bunting. Among other things, they argued that the government's approach to changing the Constitution sidestepped the role of the opposition leader. King's Counsel Michael Hilton says Ms. Llewelyn will have to step down as of Friday unless there's an appeal. The constitutional amendment was done without consultation with the opposition and brought to the House of Representatives and passed on the same day in July without support from the opposition. The DPP reached the age of retirement in 2020 but got a 3-year extension which ended in September 2023. Ms. Llewelyn has been the DPP since 2008. Legal analysts say Section 96 of the Constitution protects any work done by Ms. Llewelyn since September 2023. The section says nothing done by a DPP shall be invalid.
The Constitutional Court initially ruled in favor of Paula and Bunting, declaring the amendment invalid as it pertained to Llewelyn. The court held that the amendment circumvented the constitutionally mandated process for extending the DPP's term, which requires consultation between the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. They reasoned that by passing the amendment, the administration conferred power onto Llewelyn, never contemplated by the drafters of the Jamaican Constitution. The judges ruled that the framers of the Constitution did not empower the holder of the office of DPP, who they describe as a public servant, to decide the terms and conditions of service or on retirement from office. However, upon appeal, the Court of Appeal overturned this decision on December 20, 2024. The Appellate Court found that the amendment was constitutionally valid and applicable to the incumbent DPP. They concluded that the amendment did not undermine the constitutional process, but rather legislatively increased the retirement age, which applied to the current office holder. Consequently, Paula Llewelyn was cleared to resume her duties as DPP.